Welcome. Hi, can you hear me? Works? All right. That's me, or, well, it went away, but I'm Luca. Nice to meet you. One of the co-founders and currently the CEO of Bending Spoons. I have the rare honor to be giving you the talk you were probably the least looking forward to. So I'll try to make the best of that. My strategy to win the contest today with the other speakers is not to make my talk more interesting, because I'm not sure I can do that, but I'll keep it a lot shorter. So I think that will give me some points and speed you up toward lunch. Now, jokes aside, I just want to thank you for coming. We don't take your interest for granted. We poured our hearts and souls into making this event great. You'll tell us whether we succeeded. But just the fact that you showed up is awesome and rewarding for the team who's worked so hard to making it happen. Now, let me spend a couple of minutes telling you about Bending Spoons and what we do, what we aim to accomplish, and especially what we do with AI, given today's topic, and why we choose to sponsor and organize Synapse. It's now the second installment. How many of you had heard of Bending Spoons before looking into Synapse? Okay, we're famous. Nice. That's cool. I think last time, not as many people had raised their hands. It's good. Let me just enjoy it for a second. I remember giving talks years ago, and basically nobody was raising their hands. Maybe members from the team would raise both hands to just make it look a little bit nicer. So things are changing. Anyway, well, even though you may have heard of Bending Spoons, my experience talking about it with people is that we're not a well-understood company, which I assume is not flattering when it comes to the efficacy of our communications. But let me, tell you more about how we operate, because we are a quite an unusual company. So most companies are built to create a particular product, which is a very sensible way of building a company. By the way, I'm not discouraging anybody who's thinking about building a company to do it that way. We chose a different path, and we focused on, and I've been focusing really for nearly 10 years, on building a platform of technologies, know-how, talent, data that's fully optimized, not so much for inventing drastically new products, as much as taking products that have shown fit with the market, so there is a seed of great value there, and then building them up, operating them toward far greater success. And so we do so with a pretty diverse set of products, all technology products, with great enjoyment, and this approach or strategy, which is quite unusual, has given us also unusual success, although we're still much smaller and less significant than we aim to be in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years. We do this with a great team of people. We have about 400 spooners, that's how we call one another, working at the company. Spooners come from all over the world. They live all over the world, although Europe is by far where most of us sit. Our headquarters are in Milan. But again, we're a very international company. And we're an incredibly technical team. Out of 400 people, I would say maybe nearly 300 are software engineers, data scientists, data analysts, AI researchers, engineers. So we have these two souls. On the one hand, we acquire products and companies, which is a little bit of the investor soul, but then we have an even bigger soul of operators, technologists, engineers, which is what enables us to do so much better than most other companies, because we get our hands dirty with these products. We rebuild the software, the IT infrastructure, the AI models, the user experience, the marketing. So it's fun, and so far it's been successful. We understand that this group of people is 50% of our success, and we really try to create an incredible set of teams for the company. Besides being important for us to succeed in the marketplace, it also makes working here so much more fun. Most of us find that working with amazing people is the #1 perk of working at Bending Spoons. It's a lot of work for our recruiting team, for candidates. We receive north of 100,000 job applications each year, and only, at least historically, I've only extended about 100 offers also each year. But the flip side of all that work is that is then amazing to work in some of the most talented teams in the industry, as far as I can tell. We look for people who are highly driven to grow and make an impact, who are collaborative team players, really ambitious with the objectives they set for themselves. Bending Spoons is not, working here is not a cakewalk. It's demanding, challenging, but also we think one of the best ways to really transcend your current limits and turn into a much stronger professional than maybe you ever imagined. At least that's been the case for me, and I think for many of my colleagues. Of course, when you work so hard on creating amazing teams, then you have to create a workplace that supports that potential for greatness, and we are big believers in giving people a lot of responsibility, but also a lot of freedom to accomplish the objectives that they set for themselves. So we're big on flexibility, trust. Those are really the key words here when it comes to how we look at one another. So lots of investments in technology. As I said, our platform is a platform of tools, technologies, of know-how. In fact, know-how sometimes even beats technology, but that's for another day. We invest a lot in creating an amazing team of people, very tightly knit, and then we go out in the world and acquire and build out amazing products. We have a bunch of different products. I'm not going to talk about all of them today, but overall, over 140 million people use our products each month. So each spooner, you could say, serves nearly 500,000 users globally, which is, I think, probably Bending Spoons by that KPI might be one of the companies that's highest on the list globally. Earlier this year, we acquired Evernote, a pretty well-known productivity app. We've been working pretty hard on improving it. Some of the first results are showing, and a lot more will happen in the next several months and years. And we've been adding some interesting AI-powered features. But today, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes talking about Remini, which is, I think, an extremely exciting product. Remini, for those of you who don't know, is a photo enhancer and a synthetic photo generator. It's fully machine learning driven, so the user is asked to do very little manual work. In just a few taps, you can take a photo that's low resolution or a little bit blurry and turn it into high resolution, sharper, just generally speaking, more pleasant looking. Or you can upload a bunch of photos of you, and the app will thereafter be able to generate synthetic photos that look absolutely realistic of you in different situations, and people use this for all sorts of things, including creating, say, slick-looking photos for their LinkedIn profiles or CVs. Remini has over 70 million monthly active users, and as far as I can tell, it's at least one of, if not the most used generative AI product in the world. A lot of companies, probably with the marketing purposes, talk a lot about their generative AI work, but in most cases, they basically have that work doesn't have much utility. There is very few people or companies using it. With Remini, this is not the case, which makes working on it so much more exciting if you are inclined to do work that gets used, that moves the needle, which is something that most spooners share. And so with Remini, I think I can easily transition into what we do with AI and why. So I told you earlier that at Bending Spoons, our approach as a company is quite unusual. I think our approach when it comes to AI is also quite unusual. So we scout the market and academia for the latest and greatest in terms of AI research, study all that there is out there that's new and interesting, and then try to identify advancements that have a lot of promise when it comes to creating useful, fascinating product for users. And then we try to refine that research and build products based on it and see if we can make them smashing successes commercially. This is what we did with Remini. Remini was the most downloaded app for a good chunk of this summer, and it's, as I said, a product used by 70 million people globally. And although we pushed the boundaries of AI research, a lot of the foundations we took them from academia and in general, the open source community. So it's an extremely unusual and fascinating way of operating. And there is challenge both in terms of research. As I said, you need to understand the cutting edge and refine it and applying it quickly, but also in terms of tooling, we invest quite a bit in building powerful technologies that our AI researchers can use to be more effective and get to better results more quickly. So that's what we do, that's what we are in a few minutes. We hope to build one of the greatest companies of our generation, one of those that get remembered as the most significant, and we'll see whether we can accomplish that. We are nowhere near the goal, but the progress has been promising. We think Synapse is an important initiative, particularly given the fact that AI, as you probably know and agree with, or not, but poses incredible risks as well as amazing opportunities. Now, I don't want to get into the long-term doomsday scenario, which is an interesting discussion. But even if you look at the shorter term, as much as AI can help us bring new products of higher quality, make them cheaper, really create a better set of offerings for consumers and companies, it also helps concentrate power and wealth. And so we think that a world where most of the knowledge of and power over AI is concentrated in a couple of very small geographies and therefore in relatively few hands is not necessarily the best world we can build. We think it would be better if these important assets were shared, geographically speaking, a bit more equally. Of course, that's not going to happen out of the kindness of the heart of the people holding the keys. It has to be earned by all of us. And so by organizing, sponsoring a world-class AI symposium from an unlikely place like Italy. Most places really these days are unlikely when it comes to technological development, right? So it's more the rule than the exception. By organizing it from here and attracting some of the brightest minds and research practitioners, we hope to inspire people to try to build important things and do great work when it comes to AI from all over the world. And we hope that this will lead to a slightly better future that would be worth it. Thank you again for coming. I hope you enjoy the day. It's truly an honor and a pleasure for us to host you, and we hope we love it, and tell us if you don't, but also if you do, because it feels good to hear it. Have a good day.